So the first article for the day is about R&D. What do you understand by R&D? Why do we need R&D? Okay, why innovation? Why do we need innovation? See, the newspaper sessions are not about giving you information. I don't have to stand here and deliver information. You can read it for yourself. With the kind of technology and all the information you have, the objective of this session, after the end of this session, what is it that you have to take away? The takeaway is you need to develop a framework for thinking on this topic. Today we are talking about R&D. Tomorrow it might be some other article with respect to science. No matter what article is coming, you need to align that information in such a way that it is useful for your final exam. I keep reiterating the same point again and again every day so that you are trained to think like a policy maker. You are a problem solver. I keep telling you the same thing every day. Okay? So today's thought process or today's exercise is about how science and technology can be used for nation building. And within that framework, the takeaway here is about how research and development can build a nation and why it is important for a nation to have its own R&D systems. What will happen if we are not focusing on R&D? Okay. How many of you have basic economic classes? Any background? I'm linking science and technology to economy. I will link science and technology to GS1, Indian society. I will link science and technology to environment and every other subject. Okay. I want your participation, guys. Just start thinking. This is not a information. It should not be a one-way communication. Why is science and technology important for economy? Okay. Just a guideline. From now on, whenever you say generic words like better in what direction, in what magnitude, and why it is better, start thinking like this so that you are specific. Maybe probably a decade ago, using generic terms like better, doing greater things, better things, etc., these generic words could have fetched you marks. That's not the case anymore. You need to be very, very specific. What is better? In your idea, like you can be at least thinking in a specific direction. What do you mean by better here? Okay, sustainable ecosystem for environment angle, but I'm talking about economy angle. See, you can build infrastructure normally also. Why is science and technology relevant there? What is the expected outcome by having R&D? B? Okay. What else? What else can you think of? Can I say R&D is about efficiency? In economy, there is a term called incremental capital output ratio. I'll just give you an example. Let's say you have a steel plant. Okay. To produce 1 ton of steel, you will still need some equipment, right? It's not like a small food stall or anything. The initial cost of investment is still heavy. And you are designing that steel plant for 100 ton capacity, for example. But what if the demand is 101 ton? For that extra 1 ton also, you will still have to procure the land. Real estate is so expensive. You will have to set up the machinery. You have to set up all the technicians there. Is it viable to invest on a plant for that 1 ton alone? Need not be. What if you can create efficiency within the system, within the processes, so that instead of 100 ton, we are producing 101? Okay. How do we do that? Through R&D. So incremental capital output ratio is the additional cost required for setting up one additional unit or whatever is the cost, it is ratio. Ratio means there is a division. So for every additional unit that we want to produce, how much cost is it going to incur? To reduce that, we need R&D. This is the economy angle. Now, from a society angle, why is it that India has to invest on R&D? From a social angle, think. See, if India has a good scientific temper and a big talent pool, how is it good for Indian society? A lot of people today are leaving the country. Brain drain. You would be surprised to notice that the CEOs of many tech companies are of Indian origin. Why is that the case? So, if opportunities are not available within the country because there is no innovation in this country, there is no new technology or new startup or new commercial venture that will give them an opportunity to grow in their life, they will have no other option but to leave this country. We need to stop that. If India has to become a global power, it should be first empowered from within. Right? So that is the GS1 angle. Now, GS2. How is R&D important for governance? What do you understand by governance? See, first we will understand this theme of R&D, link it to different subjects, and then come back to the article. This is how I want you to start thinking. What is governance? Any idea? At least you must have heard about this term governance. What do you mean by that? Okay. A good try. Leading a group of people. Okay. That's one way to put it. But from a government standpoint, we talked about the social contract in the first class. The contract between the individual and the state is the social contract. So what are the processes which will facilitate this? All those processes will come under governance. And all the governance processes should have two essential parameters. Can anyone tell me what are those two essential parameters? It's there within your ethics syllabus also. See, it's important to by heart your syllabus. It should be on your fingertips. Transparency and accountability. What is the difference between the two? What is the difference between transparency and accountability? Both seem similar. Okay, transparency is about openness. Accountability is about? Why do we need this? Okay, you must be wondering, I am starting with science and technology, then why are we talking about governance, ethics, etc.? This is how the syllabus is going to be. Don't you see, this is an integral part of every syllabus pointer. Science and technology is also about openness. Unless and until you have data out there in the open, can you trust it? Do you think scientific journals will accept anything without transparency? Or if you are funding a project, are you not expected to show accountability to someone? Who are you showing that accountability to? If it is a corporate, what is the guarantee that it will not be distorted to suit their own needs? This will take us back to the debate on fundamental rights, like issues like right to privacy. This will take us to ethics. This will take us to justice, sustainability. Single topic can be mapped to all the topics like this. Are you with me? Are your thoughts aligned here? A science and technology topic can be relevant to Indian society, governance, policy, international relations, economy, environment, internal security, and ethics. And the same thoughts can also be used in essay. And that's how I want you to learn any article when it comes to newspapers. It is not the information that is important, it is a thought process that is important, because today UPSC is not rewarding people who are just gathering information. You should be good at deciphering patterns, decoding patterns, have the ability to interlink in different directions. Okay. So this is the article. Do public R&D units innovate enough? This question is raised by a report which is brought out by three different organizations or three different individual stakeholders. Take a look at the article and tell me who are those three stakeholders. It is right there in the first paragraph. Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor, Confederation of Indian Industry, Center for Technology, Innovation and Economic Research. See, why do you think there are three different stakeholders here? See, the focus will always be on the why, not the what. I want you guys to take a guess at least. Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor, leading the charge for innovation in public funded R&D organizations. See, there will be a representative of the government who will want to see how our science projects are leading to certain outcomes. You need to have an advisor. Government is not, see, even the politicians or legislators, the government, everyone involved. It's not like they are scientists. It's not like they are meant for different specific objectives, like experts in that field. You always need experts to support the government. Tomorrow, even when you enter as journalists into the system, you will have to consult specialists, right? Your ability to have an awareness on any given topic will make you flexible enough. So if any expert help is needed, you will take that. But again, having said that, you are someone who is aware that the plans that we are designing, the policies that we are designing should also be economically feasible, administratively viable. We spoke about this the other day. You should always be practical. And that's why for every aspect of governance or to make that policy into a reality, we will bring in many stakeholders. In this case, the biggest problem with India's R&D ecosystem is that the private sector players are not participating enough. And the amount of money that the Indian government can invest in R&D is just not enough when you want to compete on a global scale. So, what are the problems? How do we solve it? If we understand the problem better, we will be able to solve it better. It's as simple as that. So, you need to have wider consultation. That's the reason you have also the industry. Industry also wants to participate in the research system. It's not like they don't want to. But when they are investing certain money, if they're not able to see the commercial angle of it, why will they invest? Because at the end of the day, in a competitive world, companies thrive on profits. And it is not wrong. Ethical capitalism is not wrong. There is a concept called stakeholder capitalism. That is, you can find this term, you can just write this down, stakeholder capitalism by World Economic Forum. You'll be surprised to know this is the same idea which was brought out by Gandhiji many years ago. It's a different version of the same concept called Sarvodaya, wherein the wealthy individuals are supposed to take care of the society. Stakeholder capitalism is also a rough version of the same thing. The company owners should take care of all the people working for the company as if they are stakeholders themselves. So this is called stakeholder capitalism and ethical capitalism. It's not wrong. But if they are not spending the money wisely and if they can't see an outcome, don't you think it's a waste of money? So they don't want to invest in such activities. What are their problems? For that reason, these organizations are there. Okay. Now, firstly, you need to understand India is investing, right? If there is a question in mains, you need to be able to generate points. Like, why is India spending money on R&D? It's not that you don't know it, but your reaction time should be reduced in the mains examination, so they should be on your fingertips. It all boils down to pragmatic application, like very practical application of this knowledge. How to write an answer boils down to your thought process and the reduction in the reaction time on the day of the exam. You need to generate points very quickly. It's not like you don't know. Why are we spending money? Because we want welfare. It's a simplistic answer. But that simplistic answer will not give you an edge. You need to be very precise. So look at this. What is the core function that is expected when a state is investing in R&D? Solve long gestation, high risk problems avoided by private sector. This is the most important point. Very specific. What do you mean by long gestation? What do you mean by gestation period? The time period required for that research to see some action. Long gestation. High risk problems. What do you mean by high risk problems? When you invest money in that, the possibility of that research yielding something that has a commercial output is low. So it's a risky proposition. Let's say, for example, ISRO, whatever ISRO is doing, if a rocket fails, it's a huge cost for a private company. But if we don't invest in that, we are going to be left behind. Today we have a private space sector that is coming up, because even globally, firms like SpaceX, Elon Musk, SpaceX, etc., they are producing commercial ventures and they are getting some encouragement from the government, their respective governments, in terms of policies, etc. India should also participate in that kind of a thing. And to begin with, I'm just giving you an example of ISRO. ISRO is a great role model because take the ecosystem of ISRO. There can be rocket launchers, the spare parts manufacturing, etc., etc. Because there is a organization like ISRO, a lot of people are taking up engineering courses which will suit the needs of ISRO. A lot of students are participating in space research. They are creating startups, and those startups are creating more opportunities and jobs for this economy. Space is the next big thing. How was it possible? Because for decades together, India invested in the R&D program of ISRO. Long gestation, high risk. An example. And they are usually avoided by private sector. So these are the core areas where the governments are expected to invest. Now, second point, strategic sovereignty. What do you mean by this? Let's say, for example, you have today AI, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, etc., etc. Why are we all scared about these AI models? Because they'll take away our jobs. But the governments are scared even more because if all the information is held with a foreign company, today we have organizations like OpenAI, Google, Facebook, Meta, Apple, etc., etc. All this so-called FANG companies, FANG, they're called FANG companies. These big companies are competing with China. Where does India stand in this race? Nowhere. But India is catching up. It is trying to build its own AI models. It's going to create its own LLM models. You know what are LLMs? So if you are not aware of these terms, don't worry. Whenever the article comes up, we'll deal with the basics. Okay. So in these sectors, India is not catching up. But we have to. Otherwise, we will depend on some other country. And what if they say, tomorrow in a ecosystem where entire world is taken over by AI, every core function, learning, teaching, education, jobs, everywhere you will have AI, and we don't have the necessary ecosystem for supporting ourselves. Just like how we were discussing about hydrogen the other day, where we are dependent on fuel from some other countries. The same case will happen here. If we want that strategic autonomy, we need to have our own R&D, our own ecosystem. And for that reason, we have to invest in R&D. So what is the first objective? Solving the core problems of our society and invest in those areas where the gestation period risk is very high and for our strategic autonomy. And the third point, inclusive knowledge. Promote diversity in STEM. Do you know what is STEM? Science, technology, engineering, medicine, and all the other associated technical fields where women usually don't participate. Because this is again a social problem. Women are not expected to take up longer longer gestation educational paths, like say for example PhD. Or a lot of women are expected to drop out just after their bachelor's. They're not expected to take up jobs. So there is traditional role that women should just be caregivers in a traditional society. The notion should change because we need more women participating in the economy. So, tier 2 innovation. What do you mean by this tier 2 innovation? You will see a lot of social media videos that with a simple DIY videos like do it yourself, they will be making some beautiful aesthetic articles, etc., which can be sold. That is one level of it, just aesthetic innovation. Then there is this technical innovation where you will be using batteries, or you will be noticing that some motors, using the basic scientific principles, there is some so-called jugaad or a easy way to make things work. If that idea is taken to a innovation lab, incubation lab, where this idea is nurtured, refined, processed further, there's an opportunity for us to build world-class product. Just because they are from tier 2 towns, they do not have access to these fancy labs. And that is where India should innovate, should invest in innovation. Okay? So when you think for the next time, why is it that this country needs R&D? These are the points that should pop up in your mind. Don't say better again. Now you have an answer. Why should India invest in R&D? Great. Next. All these points. So, this is the key word. R&D is a strategic capacity for self-reliant governance and resilience. I am not teaching you just the concept. I am also training you to write answers in a quick manner. Whenever the next time, whenever there is a question on why R&D is important or anything, right away, just like that, you can generate points. Having these keywords on your fingertips, like words like long gestation, high risk problems. These two keywords will help you reduce the time taken to communicate your idea. Okay. So newspapers can also help you like that. These words are picked from the newspapers only. Long gestation, high risk problems. So you are reducing your reaction time. Once you understand the problem, you'll also go forward and see how we can use this for prelims. Okay. Now we will see the current structural problems in public R&D. This is not there in the article, but this is a framework to think. Of course, the data points are picked from the article itself, but I am rearranging them so that it makes sense to you. First point, what do you mean by siloed mandates? What do you mean by silos? Any idea? Different compartments. There is no coordination between different compartments. So, I gave you an example of a simple road the other day. If we have to coordinate and reduce our costs, we need a platform, common platform. On one day, the electricity department will dig the road and lay down some cables, cover it up. The very next day, water department, water, HMW and SSB, sewerage board, water, they will come, dig it because there is some drainage problem. Again, the cost will increase. What if they could have coordinated and reduced the cost? So similarly, if there are, overlap in the activities that different departments and different organizations in the research that they're doing, and there is no coordination, each of them will produce their own results. That lack of coordination is wasting a lot of money. That's the problem number one. Secondly, these labs are more into general science. The difference between how research is conducted elsewhere and within our own country, elsewhere, like in countries like US, China, etc., where they spend a lot of money, two different verticals are there to expand the horizon of our understanding of science, curiosity based. And there is a parallel innovation which is based on commercializing whatever scientific principles that we are thinking. For example, ChatGPT is based on an experiment funded by a lot of people because they wanted to see how this idea will work. Today they are translating that into some commercial activity, and all the other companies are catching up. Unless and until we have this commercial viability, R&D cannot sustain. We can't keep on pumping money into that without seeing some outcome. And the very fact that we will look at any company that invests in this with skepticism will probably make them look like some kind of a demon or something. Just because capitalists are investing into some R&D, we are always scared that there will be something that they will do with this data. They will tweak the system. Like every capitalist is only looked at from a negative standpoint. Is that the problem of the capitalist, or is it the problem of the people? Neither. It is not the problem of capitalists. It is not the problem of people. Bad apples or bad people exist everywhere. This is where we have to go back to our social contract. In the social contract between an individual and the state, what is the responsibility of the state? To ensure that trust is not eroded. It is our right to doubt them. And it is the duty of the state to ensure that regulation is there, because there might be 99 cases out of 100 that people are good, but that one case will erode the trust, because if it affects a lot of people, it will impact the people. For example, we all took those vaccines, COVID vaccines. We didn't have enough data, but we had to take it because that was the situation back then. Years later, a couple of years later, they come up with a data pointer saying that maybe this can put you in a risk. Had we known that, we wouldn't have taken this at all, right? At least we need to have a choice if we want to take it or not. And how do we take those choices? Based on the information we have. If we don't have that information, it's like, trust me bro, I'm just telling you. Take my word for it. Okay, I took it. And then they'll be like, okay, you may die. We don't know. And that's not the kind of system we want to be a part of. Right? So for that purpose. Then, weak startup pipelines. Only 25% of the labs the publicly funded labs are supporting the startups. Like I told you, they should be mapped to certain outcomes. If they're not even helping startups, if they're not coordinating with them, why are they existing in the first place? Just because you're in a government organization, there should not be a job guarantee kind of a thing. It's not that these organizations are behaving like that, but the culture set there is not tuned to the startup world, the fast changing startup world. Even the scientists slog there for long hours. Their social life is also very difficult. They'll have to search for funds. They'll have to think about what to do next. It's not easy for them either. But the entire ecosystem is neither helping the scientists nor the startups. So we need to align those. Probably bring some element of trust within the scientific community and the startups. And the starting point is to know where we stand. This is the reality. And there is no global collaboration, because the data pointer says that 15% of the labs only engage internationally. So whenever you're writing these points, you can quote this report. You can highlight that point. So This can go into your notes as the problems of R&D sector. There is a gender gap, but the report says that there is a gender gap. What do you mean by gender gap? A lot of women are dropping out from research. Youth are not participating. How many of you think, like, you all have friends, right? From your school, can you think of at least a couple of people who went on to become scientists? It's very rare. Why? Again, it has got something to do with our social structure. Today, you are more likely to respect a social media influencer than a scientist. A social media influencer who might be promoting betting apps because they're wealthy than a scientist. So this takes us back to GS4 ethics. There is first line of the syllabus called values. Value in ethics generally means our preference. Values is not good or bad. The judgment we impose on a certain value, whether it is good or bad, depends on our personal morality. The lens, let's say you are looking at an object through a tinted glass. You will look at it from that lens. If it is red, you look at it in red. Blue, whatever may be the color of the glass, you will look at that object through that lens. So if you impose a certain thought process on a preference and say this is good or bad, hey, this person is stealing, it's bad. The act in itself can neither be good or bad. Your decision makes it good or bad. Similarly, what is our preference? Like, coming back, why are we talking about that? Today, we are not respecting or creating that respect for scientists. Not just scientists, even teachers. Teachers are someone who can provoke you to think. What is the kind of social respect we have today? It's not the same as how it used to be previously. Even educators are reduced to mere service providers. India, that gave this world the Guru Sishya Parampara, the respect, the kind of mutual admiration that a teacher has for a student and a student has for a teacher, is eroding. And this has got a lot to do with the clash with the value system. It's not that across the world the value system is like that. Even teachers are respected elsewhere, but in India, because of the competitive nature, even education is reduced to a commodity. Same thing is happening even in science. Your choices are determined by the society. Is this the kind of society we want to be in? That's a choice you have. Like, you should all act. The reason why scientists are not respected. Do you know Sachin Tendulkar got a Bharat Ratna? Are you aware? In the same year, there was one more scientist who got a Bharat Ratna. Are you aware of that person? Do you know the name of the person at least? The very fact that we all don't even know who that person is explains the problem of R&D in this country. That's the problem. The day we respect scientists more than social media influencers, the day we respect values over money, that's when you will see the real transformation in this country. Coming back. So if you have to sum up the entire problems of this sector, a systemic disconnection between lab innovation and national transformation, that sums up the word, the entire problem statement of our R&D sector. Now, if we have to evaluate, like I told you, right, we all look at an issue through a certain lens. How do we evaluate the R&D sector? You need to have certain metrics to say this is good or bad. Is it relevant? See, you might be doing a research, but is that research relevant today? Need not be. Then, are you prioritizing that research today? Should we take a call or not? Because unfortunately, the government doesn't have infinite funds. There is a limitation to how much the government can pay. We need to pick our battles very wisely. We cannot afford to invest blindly. Second principle, is that research translating into some actionable outcomes? Third point, Are we collaborating with all the stakeholders, companies, research organizations, nationally, internationally, MSMEs? How many of you are aware of this word MSME? Micro, small, medium enterprises. What is the difference between heavy industries and this? There is an MSME Act. Please go back to your homes, search for the legal definition of MSME from the MSME Act. On 12th May 2020, the government came up with Atmanirbharta package in COVID. 12, 13, 14, in that week itself. They changed the definition of MSME. Go back to that date, see the latest definition, it can be your prelims pointer. So if you are collaborating with these MSMEs, what is the takeaway? Finally, are we including all sections of the society? Because we don't want any section of the society to be left out. And finally, are we creating an efficient system? Now, if we go by this metric, what does this report say? Let's see. With respect to relevance, only 30% of the labs align. Collaboration, just 15%. We already discussed this point. Efficiency, budget has grown, but outcomes are not, we are not aware of the outcomes. Inclusion, women's participation is very negligible. It remains static, but has not increased. This is not a problem that can be solved by putting in more money. Attitudes at social level can be changed only when the attitudes of the people are influenced. We need to nudge people to change. You just can't throw money and say, hey, change your mindset. It's not possible. Even the wealthiest families in this country today sometimes have a very prejudiced mindset. Whether it is towards women, towards caste, towards a new profession. Do we have the concept of dignity in labor? Dignity of labor? I don't think so. We all pretend like we all have that. But just imagine if you're not a corporate employee and you're doing something on your own. Let's say it can be as small as a small vendor on a street. Do you think the society will actually treat both of them with the same kind of respect? Not really. It all boils down to our social values. By this metrics, this report says that out of 5 parameters, on 4 parameters we are failing, which speaks a lot about how we are dealing with our R&D ecosystem. Time has to change. We cannot afford to continue like this. What do? Whenever a problem is raised, we also need to have a solution, and the expert should provide that solution. And since you cannot have a complete picture of the ground reality, in your answers you should quote these reports to make them credible. If you want to bring authenticity to the answer, originality to the answer, you can present it in your own way, but the data should always come from trusted government reports only, not even private, government reports. Because private reports can be, debated. We will see this directly. Okay. What is the philosophy of reform? How should our reform structures be like? First point, supply push to demand pull. Whatever we are doing today is actually something that has got to do with India's own set of talent. Let's say we are good at a sector, pharma or space. We are confining our energies only to that. All the scientists that you see today are going back to the same discipline, biotechnology, space, material technology, because these are the domains of science where there is some development historically because of the research organizations. But if you take a look at the number of journals that are of world-class quality, they're very low. It's not because of the lack of capability, but the supporting ecosystem. And to change that, we need to move away from a supply side, like whatever we are good at, and move and focus on those areas that this global demand needs are there, or national needs are there. So our research focus should be driven by India's needs rather than whatever we are good at. So the missions of India, national technology units, we should form those missions and research budget should be allocated to solve those problems. Let's say, for example, if we want to have semiconductors, we need a semiconductor mission which will focus on making them more efficient and making India a global hub for semiconductors. Similarly for space, similarly for biotechnology, quantum computing, any small area that we are focusing on, it should be centered around that. There is this model called DARPA. This is there in the US. What they do, they'll have very fast cycles of giving grants. It's not like when you have an idea, you wait for decades together to get funding. That's not the case there. Quick funding. Prioritize whatever has the largest outcome. And how they give funds further is they will have some milestones. If you achieve this, you will get more funding. If you achieve this, more funding. So it's time bound. They will be giving money and they will be seeking accountability. We need to have similar kind of a system. And there will be cross-pollination of ideas from the private, from the government, from every possible sector, from students, from interns. You never know. The brightest minds can also be found in the most remotest corners of this country. So what is the outcome that we are expecting? These are the outcomes. Building a future-ready India. How? By strategic autonomy. Whatever sectors we are depending on outside world, foreign countries. For example, we invest a lot of defense equipment from Russia, US, France, Israel, etc. We need to develop indigenous models, or we have to become Atmanirbhar. Okay? Self-sufficient. Job creation. Why do we need R&D? For jobs. Exportable technology. See, we do not have a history of creating world-class tech products that can be transported or exported, to the world. We are not able to tap into those high-value products. For example, DRDO has created this missile called BrahMos. How many of you know BrahMos? Heard about this? The BrahMos missile is now exported to countries like Philippines, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, Philippines. That creates an economy for us. Instead of we importing from France, let's say for example, what are we importing from France? Rafale, a fighter jet. All the major equipment historically, we have taken it from Russia, US, Israel, etc., etc. Why should that be the case? These can be prelims pointers for you. Okay, inclusive science we have already dealt with what is meant by inclusive science. So if I have to sum up, public R&D must be judged by problem solved, not money spent. Simple solution. A thought process trained for you. It is India's brain trust for inclusive future ready development. Okay. Now we will be taking up the second article in a similar line. I have explained the thought process involved in dealing with science. Now, after reading this entire article, did you get a perspective on how to prepare science and technology? Are you expected to be a scientist? You just need to know basic common sense level science principles. If I say, I'll put a vegetable into a machine, it will come out like potato chips or something. It's science fiction as of today. There is this technology called 3D printing. How many of you are aware of it? Can we 3D print food? Can we deny the possibility of that? Someone with a scientific temper should never discount anything. You need to have a reverse engineering mindset. Okay, today it is not possible. Maybe in the future it can be possible. What does it take to make that happen? This is the kind of mindset you need to have. Do not dismiss any idea, even if it feels like science fiction. Okay. How many of you thought that AI technology would, be accessible to people in such a short span? We have videos of, Gandhiji fighting WWE wrestlers. That's probably the worst possible use case of AI, but we still have that. How many of you thought that it would be possible? And also, there is danger of AI. Like, say, for example, this deep fakes issue, misinformation. Technology is a double-edged sword. It's neither good nor bad. For example, nuclear fission is a scientific principle. Is it good or bad? Neither. It's neither good nor bad. It's just science. It's just there. It's a fact of life. The humans behind that can decide if it is good or bad. You can either make an atom bomb or a nuclear reactor. What you do with it is your prerogative. And that's why ethics is important in a society. You might be thinking of a short-term gain, but for a long-term sustainable legacy, you need to do the right things, the hard things. Which brings us to the second article about vaccination. What is the problem here? Thanks to COVID and the vaccines therein, a lot of people today are very hesitant to take vaccines. In many tribal hamlets, just because they were taking vaccines, there were many issues like temporary paralysis, nervous system weakness, heart issues. These are documented cases. There is no established research on what is happening even today. When there is so much mistrust, even the vaccines that proved to be very effective, people are not taking them today. So trust is such an important element in governance that you can create world-class products, but if people don't trust it, or if something happens in the past that has completely taken away that social trust, do you think governance can be easy? So, trust is the invisible, grease that keeps the engine of governance running. It's like that grease which reduces that friction. In the absence of that element, no matter what you do, you cannot convince people. In this context, the problem is described as vaccine hesitancy. Vaccine hesitancy is also an ethical issue, because if you are aware, like let's say you are a leader with all the good intentions for this country, you know that there is a solution. You know that if people take this vaccine, we can not only save their lives, but practically speaking, we will ensure that the cost of healthcare is coming down significantly. The purpose of vaccines, please remember this. I picked this line from Navjot Singh Sidhu, who is a cricket commentator. While he was talking about one of the incident many years ago, he gave a very beautiful line that stuck with me for a very long time. It's always better to prevent and prepare than to repent and repair. I keep, using the same line in a lot of contexts. You can use this even in your mains exam. It's always better to prevent and prepare than to repent and repair. With the same mindset, vaccination is an answer for many preventable diseases today. See, as such, we already have the burden of non-communicable diseases, diabetes, heart stroke, cancer, all this lifestyle diseases. Back in the day, many decades and centuries ago, why do you think people used to have so many kids? Because not a lot of them would survive because of preventable diseases like this. Today, that's not the case. Are we moving backwards? What is the importance of scientific temper and trust? Why is it that people should demand accountability from scientific organizations also? Why should we demand accountability so that crony capitalism or the bureaucrat, politician, and capitalist nexus do not erode this public trust? This is a case to the point. So there is this World Health Organization report which says that the preventable deaths because of vaccination, thanks to COVID and other issues, they are taking a backseat. People are not taking vaccines. Why is vaccination important? Because it will prevent child mortality, it will build herd immunity. Do you know what is herd immunity? Anyone who has survived COVID will definitely know what is herd immunity. We all know herd immunity because we all have that now. Probably in a pandemic, when you survive that pandemic, all of us will have that immunity against that particular strain of virus. Okay, that is herd immunity. So vaccination gives us that herd immunity. Even if you're transmitting it, it will not affect our body because our body has enough mechanisms to support our systems. And it's a cost effective intervention because a lot of lives will be saved. Your public hospitals are not filled with emergencies. Just visualize what was happening in May 2021. Every day 4 to 5 lakh reported cases were coming. Reported only. We don't know how many unreported cases were there. That's the kind of problem that we will have in this country if you don't take care of our health systems. Do you think we learned something from the COVID lesson? Let's be very honest. Think about it. Did we learn something as a country from the COVID system? Do you see any state demanding health as a public right? Are we seeking better healthcare infrastructure? I don't think so. Is health an election agenda? How many of you think health insurance is necessary? How many of us actually have health insurance? You know it is important, but how many families do really have health insurance? Even the ones who can really afford good insurance policies take it very casually. To be very honest, I was also one of that person many years ago. I don't need a health insurance, I'm very healthy. And it's nature's way of humbling us. Look, you're not as strong as you think you are. Just be humble enough and just focus on getting your basics right. It teaches us to stay grounded. That's the beauty of nature. But do you think we are learning from our lessons? I don't think so. So what do? Change should begin from within. We should all strive to be better persons. Again, vaccination can also be considered a developmental tool because it is empowering the citizen. See, a healthy mind and a healthy body is a prerequisite for wealth creation in this country. If you're constantly sick, do you think you can participate in this economy? No. It involves both mental as well as physical. Health is a state of well-being. The definition of health by World Health Organization is not just absence of illness, but a state of well-being. We need to focus on the second part. I don't think this country has learned its lessons. Not just our country. The globe has not learned its lessons. And the public cannot be blamed because they are not able to understand the gravity of the situation. I don't think this country has enough resources to survive another pandemic. Not just this country. The globe doesn't have enough resources to survive another pandemic. And whatever research priorities, how to make Ghibli images. We need to think, are we prioritizing the right kind of values? What does the article say about what happened after COVID? In 2023, 14.5 million children missed vaccines across the globe. There is a budget disruption for regular immunization activities. There is a misinformation surge. There is logistics disruption. All of this are happening in the most vulnerable countries, not just India, across the globe, many African nations. Is this progress? And on top of it, we have a double whammy of AI taking our jobs, climate change induced disasters. What are we even prioritizing? Sorry? Okay, I'll finish. So, these are the structural bottlenecks. Global challenges, India specific issues. There is not enough funding, the health systems are fragile, the vaccines that we are looking at, they are only hoarded in a few countries, access is denied. And the same specific issues to India. There are some pockets like tribal pockets, some areas of East India where immunization is not happening. Urban poor are missing the doses. Misinformation is spread and some 25% of the children are missing the vaccination schedules, which are making them immunocompromised. We have some institutional responses for this. You have the Gavi Alliance, Global Vaccine Alliance, which brought up a catch-up initiative in 2023 to fix this problem. In India, we have this Indradhanush program. There is a universal immunization program, and like you told, there are some pockets within the country where this vaccines are not reaching. The mission Indradhanush is meant for that. And there are some milestones where India has achieved that was discussed in this article. You can go through those milestones. And finally, I'm just talking about the cost of neglect here. If we are neglecting immunization, it will have a cascading effect on our life. We have already discussed all of that. So, what is the takeaway from this article? We need to ensure vaccines as public goods. Public goods are the goods which are given to the public not as a donation. It is their right. Because we want to keep the nation healthy, and only a healthy nation can participate in nation building. And this is true across the globe. Okay? So how else can we use this article? In health, GS2, we can use this National Health Mission, immunization related data, all the child welfare schemes that are mentioned. In those dimensions, you can use that. In GS3, how systemic responses can disrupt the entire system. Okay, any health issue can impact economy. What is the cost associated with a public health disruption like COVID? And you can include this even in essay topics like public health failures, silent cost of inaction, global health equity challenges. These are the dimensions in which you can use this article. So today we discussed how to look at science and technology. This is not just an article on WHO or not just an article on R&D, some report. We have trained ourselves to look at how to read science and technology and what is the end objective of reading science and technology. I hope this session was good enough for you to open a lot of dimensions and rewire your thinking. Is that okay? Clear? So always ask questions. Why? How? Seek that clarity, seek that structure. That's when you actually start seeing some positive results in your preparation. Every activity that we do should have an outcome. Now, what is the outcome today? Just loud answer. I will be happy to hear your perspectives. What is the takeaway for you? You understood, at least from your perspective, the definition of better. You have a more clearer answer. What is your takeaway? Exactly. How science and tech can be linked to different syllabus pointers. This is the takeaway, not just a couple of articles. Okay? That's it for today. We'll meet you tomorrow. Have a good day.